messieurs, aujourd'hui, je vous demande d'accueillir donc Miro Laflaga et Ash Phillips pour leur conférence Creative Mind.
You want to sit there? All right.
Testing. All right, perfect.
Hello.
Yes.
It works. Awesome. Wow, I'm a little bit nervous, I'm not gonna lie. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. We're super happy to be here amongst you all. My name is Ash.
My name is Miro.
And we are the co-founders of our creative agency, 6/5. Just to give you a little idea about what we do at 6/5, we are a branding agency and we help businesses and entrepreneurs define who they are, and we give them the tools to communicate their unique value with the world. And as you can see, we do a lot of design work, so it only made sense for us to be here today to speak to you all about design. Obviously, it makes sense, right? But today we don't want to speak to you about the type of work we do in our agency. We want to talk about how design impact and an influence on overall lifestyle, whether it be our personal life or our business life. So obviously, to tell this story, we have to start from the very beginning, starting with who we are. I'm going to speak for both of us right now. Miro and I have always been very creative people from a very young age. We've always been drawn to the arts. For me, it was illustration and drawing. For Miro, it was video games and comic books and cover arts. And that had a huge influence on us when we were trying to figure out what we wanted to do with our lives. So when we got to the point where we were figuring out what we wanted to do with our lives, there was a lot of outside noise, whether it be from our parents, teachers, our peers, or just society as a whole that wasn't necessarily super encouraging of pursuing creative careers, right? So we ended up doing things that we didn't necessarily like doing. For Miro, it was studying subjects that he wasn't truly passionate about or interested in and working random odd jobs. For me, although I did pursue my studies in graphic design, afterwards I didn't really know what I wanted to do with it. I was freelancing a little bit, working at small agencies, doing grunt work that I wasn't truly passionate about. And so both of us, when we met, we had this thing in common where we weren't really passionate about the lives we were living. We weren't really satisfied with the options that were out there for us. So when we connected, we were like, you know what? We're just gonna do our own thing. We're just gonna forget about all that outside noise and try to carve our own path. And that's what we did. And that's what really makes us designers. You're probably thinking, okay, what's the correlation between that and design? I don't get it. Well, let's look at the definition of design. A common definition that I'm sure many of you have heard before is that design is solving problems. But more specifically, when you're designing, you're working with constraints to, yes, solve a problem, but it's really to the benefit of the end user. And when we decided to do our own thing and block out the outside noise, we were solving our own personal problem, a problem with the options that were out there that didn't really stimulate us. And we found our own solution to the benefit of the end user being ourselves. When we think about design, oftentimes we associate it with architecture, web design, industrial design, but we rarely think to apply this notion to our own lifestyles. After all, we are the end user of our own lives, right? And the best design improves the human experience, and that's what we chose to do when we decided to really do our own thing. We found a solution that, although maybe wasn't the path taken by most, improved our own personal human experience. And I hope that everyone here does that too. I think we're all living our own lives. We all have our own constraints and boundaries and limitations, and we're all trying to make the best of it, and we're all trying to live a life that elevates our own personal human experience, right? And that brings me to why we created 6/5. 6/5 was that solution to the problem we had with the limiting options that were out there. And simultaneously, we were also solving another problem that we saw in the creative industry as a whole, which was a huge lack of diversity in Montreal's creative industry. And so in creating 6/5, we were also solving a problem there, and we wanted to create a space that offered a positive representation of what a creative agency could look like, a different alternative of what that could look like. And we wanted to change the industry from the inside out.
So breaking the mold. Hey everyone, I'm Miro. And so how Ash just explained right now, how we were living our life prior, we weren't really too happy with it. And it kind of pushed us to kind of adapt a different mold, which is a new lifestyle. And by doing that, we created CIS5M. Now you might be asking, what is this new mold that we adapted? Well, the entrepreneurship / agency culture mold, if you want to call it. And when Ash and I decided to go all in into this, this was all new to us. We didn't know anything about this. So we just went in it like, we were like kids experiencing life for the first time. And by us adapting this mold, there was a lot of things that we were experiencing that was basically new to us, right? So to just give you an example, you know, we're experiencing a lot of like sucking it up, taking on projects that you don't really enjoy doing. And I would just give you some examples, like, you know, we had clients who felt the need that they could call us at 10 p.m. or send us text messages or emails, and we felt the need to answer that. We're like, yo, we have to answer that for sure, for sure. Like, not creating any type of boundaries. We would do a branding project for a client, and they would tell us like, oh, you know, can you manage our social media? And me and Ash is like, okay, well, that's an extra mandate. That's extra cash in the bank account. Hell yeah, we're gonna do that. Although we don't like managing social media, so why are we taking that on? So we saw ourselves taking on projects for the money, and we saw us not really creating any boundaries and always chasing clients. Just this idea of like, okay, we have to, the client is always right. We always have to grind. And it was just because of this entrepreneurship mold or agency mold indirectly was telling us that like, yo, we have to grind. We have to bust our ass off. We have to, you know, team no sleep. And that was what we were experiencing at the time, because that's what everyone else was doing, right? However, by us experiencing that or going through that, there was something happening internally. There was something that was like manifesting that we kind of ignored for the longest time. And, you know, we start to like experience forms of anxiety, depression. It was horrible. Like, I remember getting calls from clients and I see the client's name on the phone, and I would just literally just like freeze up, and I was just like, oh my God, I don't want to do this. Or waking up in the morning and like, oh my God, we're still working on this project that I'm not happy about. So it's just ironic that, you know, me and Ash started CIS5M out of love, out of something that we were really passionate about. Then it kindly brought us back to how we were feeling before we started it, right? And, you know, overall, just low motivation, lack of passion overall, right? And one of the main reasons why we were experiencing that is because me and Ash never stopped to think that, like, why don't we design something that's special to us? Why did we adopt a mold that was already there? Why don't we design something that is unique to our lifestyle, unique to us? Let's do that, right? And we have to go through a burnout to eventually realize that we have the power to kind of design a lifestyle for us. Who says that there's only one path of success? Who says that in order to run a successful agency or be a successful entrepreneur, you have to follow this system that was created by someone else? We could create our own, right? And that's exactly what we do. So now you might be asking, what does this new design that we created look like? I'm gonna show you a little bit of it. So what we started doing is implementing boundaries, you know? So 9 to 3 p.m., although, you know, we're here at 8 a.m., but at 9 to 3 p.m., after 3 p.m., you send me a message or email or anything like that, you're not hearing from me until the next day. And that includes the weekends. The weekends, I'm not on my computer, I'm not doing any type of client work. Saying no to projects where we're not passionate about, right? Like, if I don't feel emotionally invested in the project, if it doesn't bring me real joy, I'm not taking it, because what's the point? Like, I'm gonna be pissed about it, I'm gonna be upset about it, and it's just, we're not gonna feel good about it, right? Focusing on our strengths, right? Like, we want to do branding. We're good at branding. We want to help build powerful brands. We want to do that. So we're not going to handling social media accounts. We're not going to do things like SEO and stuff like that, because that's not what we like doing, and that's not what we're good at. So we're just going to focus on what we're good at and what we're amazing at, right? And not chasing clients, like this idea of us trying to convince why people need to work with us. No. You need to be convincing why you should be working with us. That's how our mentality started changing, and just overall taking enough time for ourselves, because we deserve it.
So when we created this new design, although it sounds super fun, it didn't happen overnight. It wasn't an easy transition. At first, we had our doubts about it. We had thoughts that sounded like, are we just lazy? Is this really productive? Are we going to be successful by adapting this new design? And these thoughts came from the old design. They were the ghosts of the old design. And the reason why we had those thoughts was because no one around us, no other entrepreneurs that we knew of, or no other agency owners or business owners were living that experience. Everyone else was living this grind culture, this nonstop grind culture. And so we kind of felt a little weird, a little out of place, a little guilty about designing a lifestyle that was not like that and that didn't look like that, right? So we had to really redefine our definition of productivity and unlearn the old design in order to fully embrace this new design, because there's no one way to be successful. Our definition of success is doing work that we love, living on our own terms, not feeling stressed, feeling relaxed. And as a result, that means our definition of productivity is going to change, and it's going to look different from other people's definition of productivity. And that's okay. It doesn't have to be the same. As long as it works for us, and it does work for us. We run a successful business. We do this full time. Even though we finish at 3 p.m., we're still in business, right? It doesn't hurt us. Then it's okay. And one of the situations that really helped us redefine our definition of productivity was an experience that we had with Creative Block. So being creatives, being paid to be creative all the time, it sounds fun, but obviously you do run into your fair share of creative blocks. It's not something that naturally flows all the time. And that's what happened when we had an experience with a client of ours called Freddie V and the Foundation. Freddie V and the Foundation, super, super dope pop, funk, Afro band that we really connected with and fell in love with. And they mandated us to develop their whole visual identity, as well as all of their branding assets for their debut album, their new rollout. And because we felt so connected to this project, we had put a lot of pressure on ourselves to do a really, really good job. And on top of that, we had a really tight deadline for this project. And so when we started working on it, based on our old definition of productivity, what we thought was productive, was we worked on the project every single day. We were thinking about it nonstop, no breaks in between, and we were constantly sketching ideas out, but nothing was working, nothing was coming out. Everything that we did, we didn't like. It just wasn't meshing. And it got to the point where we were really just staring at the computer screen, hoping that ideas would just magically appear. So what was happening was that we were creatively constipated. And I know it's kind of a gross analogy, but what do you do when you're constipated? Do you sit on the toilet for the entire day? Do you spend the whole day in the bathroom forcing things? No, you don't do that because it's not healthy. You're just going to get hemorrhoids, and nobody wants that. So what you do instead is you take some time out for yourself. You drink some water, you eat some fiber, you give your body some self-care, you give your body a break, and then things start to happen for you. Things start to flow. And it's the same thing with creativity and creative block. That's what we had to do in this situation. Although we felt guilty about it at first, we were at a point where we're like, you know what, we can't do this anymore. We need to stop thinking about this altogether. Let's just take a break. Let's take some time out for ourselves. Let's relax. Let's read a book. Let's go outside. Let's do some exercise. Do something totally different. And it's after doing that, when we came back to the project, and I'm not just saying this, we really knocked out the visual identity for the project in less than a day from taking that break for ourselves. And it's that visual identity that we ended up using to create all of their visual assets. This is just a small part of it. But it's really that situation, and that's one situation amongst many others, but this situation really helped us put into perspective what productivity means. It really helped us redefine what productivity means to us. For us, rest, incorporating rest in our routine and finishing at 3 p.m. every day so we have that time, that leisure time for ourselves, it's a part of our version of productivity. It works for us. And so we embrace that into our creative process.
So, designing your life, what is the point of us sharing with you all of this morning, right? I think the most important thing that we need to start doing as humans and as people is that we need to start listening to our mind, soul, and body more. You know, we live in a society where everyone is constantly grinding, everyone is constantly trying to figure things out, and indirectly it's telling us to ignore these feelings because, you know, no one wants to admit that they're stressed. No one wants to admit that, you know, like, okay, I need a break or I need time off or this is overwhelming. Like, no one wants to do that because indirectly society is telling you that's considered weak and that's not cool. You're not helping, you're not being productive, you know? However, these feelings that you're feeling, like these emotions that's apparent inside of you internally, it's actually guiding you. It's actually telling you that there's something up, and it gives you the opportunity to design a solution for that, right? That's how you need to look at it, right? And the fun thing about designing a solution for that is that it's unique to you, right? Like, it's, you know, when Ash and I designed our own lifestyle, that was unique to us. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to apply to anyone else, and that's okay. And that's the magic of that, right? So you could design a lifestyle that is unique to you, and so that means that by looking on Instagram or looking at your neighbor or anything, and you see like their lifestyle, how they design it is like, wow, it's so amazing. But it's like, no, like, you don't have to feel envious about that because you could design something that's unique to you. They're designed something that was unique to them. So don't try to copy another design or someone else's mold and try to apply it to yourself. It just doesn't work like that, right? So designing your own life. So all this to say is that when you design your own life, it doesn't only impact you internally, it also has the possibility of impacting other people around you as well too, you know, because when you feel good about yourself, that's kind of contagious, right? So again, I'm going to use us as an example. When we decided to design our own lifestyle, that started rubbing off with our collaborators and the people that we're working with, because we're coming on to projects with our A game, amazing energy, and they felt that. We weren't putting pressure on people that we're working with, you know what I'm saying? Like, it just became so contagious, right? So all this to say is to, you know, by you choosing a better human experience, that makes you feel better, and it becomes like a chain reaction almost, right? So my last question I have for you today is that, are you going to be the designers of your life starting today? Again, my name is Miro Laflaga. I'm here with Ash Phillips. We're part of C5. Thank you so much for coming to our talks. Questions? Oh, I know. I don't know if there's any questions or anything like that.
Attends, je vais prendre le micro.
Oh.
Je vais lui donner. J'ai juste gardé son-
Wait. Thanks very much. It's very courageous sometimes to make decisions like that. I worked in an agency quite a few years ago, and I was just wondering, did you lose clients because of the 9 to 3? How did the clients react? Because you talked about your adaptation. How did the clients react to that, and how did they adapt to that change?
you want to answer?
I could answer that.
ahead.
You know, the interesting thing about that, we did not lose clients. If anything, they felt even more pressure to work with us because they realized that our time was more limited. So it's like, oh, like, listen, 3 p.m. I'm not answering you, or like we made it very known that we only have a short period of time to interact with them. So it made them actually like, okay, I want to work with you even more. So no, it's kind of like the scarcity mentality type of thing. Like it worked in our favor, in other words.
I should come closer.
Again, yeah, this is wonderful. I was wondering, like, in that transition, similar to what you were saying, the privilege to be able to say, I don't want to take this client because I'm not passionate about it, even though they pay a lot of money. Like, how practically did y'all make that transition? Like, did those clients just come out of the woodwork, or did you do more research, or how did you find the people you were passionate about?
Yeah, so that, like, this transition, and this is where we are today, right? This isn't something that happened overnight. So when we started out, we had to start out, you know, going through the motions of life and really to make a name for ourselves. You know, it sounds, you know, all glamorized the way that we say it, but realistically speaking, we started out one way and we slowly but surely made those incremental changes over time. And so through that experience, we did grow our network and start to make a name for ourselves and make our business known. And we got to a point where we became kind of like a reference point for what a Black-owned agency looks like. And by doing that and being vocal and, you know, branding ourselves the way that we do and doing press and marketing ourselves the way that we do, that's really what allowed us to connect with the people who shared our values at the same time. So yes, where we are now, we're at a very privileged place, but we worked our way up to get to that point. It wasn't always like that.
Hello. I wonder, how do you make sure that the people that works with you understand your, like, the new way of, like, creating and working? Like, is it like, yeah, that's the question.
You want to answer? Or? Honestly, the way that we design our lifestyle, it's very internal. So it's not something that, you know, as soon as we work with someone, we're like, okay, yeah, we start our days from 9 to 3 and that's how it is. That's just how we operate internally. And so when we work and collaborate with other people, we just make sure that they fit within our schedule, because we're in control of our own schedule because we run our own agency, we have the freedom of doing that. So when we're collaborating with other people, it's just something that naturally happens where we make sure that things fit, because we're really in control of our schedule at the end of the day. And yeah, I don't know if you want to add to that.
And also another thing too is that Ash and I try our best to have like a open communication line. So when we're working with our contractors, for example, we ask them straight up, like, are you feeling burnt out by this? Like, how do you feel? And try to have that conversation. So if we're working with someone who's like, yo, I'm a night owl, I love working like 9 hours, and it's like, that's your thing, then for sure. But we don't want someone who work with us and have to like grind to a point that they're fried. Like that's against our values, you know, right now. So just having that communication with our collaborators, I feel like that's the first step that we do to ensure that everything is operating how it needs to be.
Yeah, just to add on to that, like, you know, we don't impose our design on other people. We have our own way of doing things, and like you said, like, we have people who are more night owls and they work on their own schedule, and we respect their schedule and they respect our schedule. So we give them that flexibility and freedom to do it their own way and the way that's best for them, because we believe that their way is the right way and our way is the right way for us and for them individually.
Hi, thanks. I just wanted to say that your message was really strong. It was like getting emotional.
Thank you.
Really well done personally, but like for society too. I was curious to find out more about how you came up with the name.
You're gonna answer that one. You're gonna ask the creative director for sure.
So 6/5 is 6/5 in English. It's a reference to our senses, and it's a reference to the sixth sense. So yes, we'll have our 5 senses, but creativity for us is this invaluable resource, and it's when you're able to wield all of your senses to be creative and you have that aha moment and that spark of creativity, like what is that? Where does that come from? We call that the sixth sense. And so that's what we're referencing in our name, 6/5. We're utilizing 6/5 of our senses in everything that we do.
Thank you for the talk. It's really great. And I accept your invitation to live my life of design.
Nice.
Yes.
I had a question about, you mentioned Freddie V and your blog. I'm working on that project. I have this picture that, since it's about music, you were probably immersed in their music. Did you have to break away from that as well as part of the blog? And so what did you listen to? What did you do?
When we were working on this specific project, for sure we were immersed, like really immersed in the music. So we were constantly listening to the music to get inspired in the beginning. But when we took the break, like we literally just stopped the music completely. We dissociated ourselves from the work completely, because the music was already embedded in our subconscious minds. We didn't need to listen to it anymore. So when we approached it with fresh eyes, we didn't listen to the music again after that. Like we already knew what we had to do, and it just flowed very naturally from there. Welcome.
Est-ce qu'il y aurait une dernière question? Ah, 2 questions. Talking about the creative process and the creativity blocks, are you afraid sometimes that even though you take a pause, like a day off or 2 days off, that the creativity won't come up? Are you afraid sometimes?
No, because that never happens. Literally never. Even if I am afraid, it never happens. Like now I'm at the point where like I trust the process. At first I would stress about it and I would be like, oh my God, like I'm never gonna come up with any ideas. But after doing that a few times and ultimately in the end always finding a solution, I'm like, okay, yeah, like now I know the drill. Like this is just part of the process. If it's not working, I put the sketchbook away or the computer away, or I work on something else. And I know that when I come back to it, maybe not right away, I might come back to it and still have to work on it a little bit and do the same thing 1 or 2 times. But ultimately, at the end of the day, something will come out of it, because when you're not working on it, you're still working on it. You're subconsciously working on it. Your brain is working on it, whether you're aware of it or not. So yeah, now I'm at the point where like I totally trust the process. I know that that's just part of it.
Yeah, just to add on to that, like I'm a firm believer of like boredom is part of creativity. Like you have to be bored. We have to allow our minds to wander and just have the opportunity of doing that. And by experience, by me doing that, even Ash doing that, like it has never failed us yet. You know, like we went like a whole week taking time off and just not working on a specific project, and communicating with the client like, yo, you know what, we have to push the deadline, or like, we're gonna get back to you the week after, and then boom, something happens magically. And yeah.
Just to add also, like when we're working with deadlines too, because all of our client interactions, like we set our own deadlines, or if they come to us with a tight deadline and it's not realistic, we'll be like, it doesn't work, we can't do that. And if they want to extend the deadline, they can. If they can't, oh well, we'll work together another time. But we always give ourselves extra time. So we know that, let's say if we're doing a branding project, maybe it might take only a week to finish, but we give ourselves 3 weeks so that just in case, if we do run into creative blocks and we do need to work on it a little bit more, we have the time and flexibility to do that.
Thank you. Very inspiring. Thank you.
Thank you.
My question is, you said at some point that you built the company, obviously, so it didn't start like from like the big wow from the beginning. So if what would be the advice to tell someone or a group of people that are just starting they're designing their new life, whatever? What would be the one advice that you would give them?
One advice. I feel the first advice is to just go out there and get as much experience as possible and really understand what you like and what you don't like. I wouldn't suggest like right away, like, okay, these are my terms and this is how I want to operate. Experience, start working with other people and start like making a checklist, like, oh, okay, these are some red flags. This is something that I'm not comfortable with. Go several months experiencing that, and then from there you have a nice base to make the decision to like, okay, these are the type of jobs I don't want to do. These are the type of people I don't want to work with. These are the type of people I do want to work with. And then from there you have a good reference point. So I feel like it's very important to at least build up a solid reference point to start from there. That would be my advice.
I think like exactly what you said, gaining that experience to figure out to get to know yourself better and know like what your boundaries are, what they should be, and then also as you're doing that, you might feel doubts about it, or you might I forget what I was going to say.
Brain freeze?
I got a brain freeze. What did I want to say? I have it right here. Yeah, I totally forget what I was just going to say. Damn it. Live on stage.
We will come back to you.
We'll talk after.
Je vais prendre la dernière question.
Yes, hi. How do you manage creative ideas that pops at night?
Ooh.
Creativity ideas that pop at night. I try my best to start saving them on my phone as much as I can. So like I use my notes, and sometimes I'll be like, oh, and it's, you know, I'm privileged that, you know, Ash is also my romantic partner. So we just throw this idea at each other, and we just be like, oh my God, you know, it'd be so sick right now. And we talk about it, and we just put it down in our notes. And, you know, probably a month later or something like that, we go back to it. So I've been practicing on just like writing down notes, or in my phone, just writing down like different ideas that just pop out randomly at night. And yeah, it's been very helpful. You want that? Yeah.
Merci beaucoup, Ash et Miro.
Thank you. Thank you.